بنتے علی علی کی طرح سرفراز ہے، زینب خدا کی شان محمد کا ناز ہے، زینب رضائے صبر کی جائے نماز ہے، زینب نبی کے دین کی عمر دراز ہے۔
سبحان اللہ، بہت خوبصورت انداز سے مولا کائنات کا ذکر کیا گیا، اور کیا بات ہے ذکر کی، کیا فضیلت ہے ذکر کی کہ رسالت مآب صلی اللہ علیہ وآلہ وسلم ارشاد فرماتے ہیں کہ 3 چیزیں ایسی ہیں کہ جن کو دیکھنا عبادت ہے۔ ایک، قرآن کریم کے الفاظ کو دیکھنا عبادت، دوسرا خانہ کعبہ کو دیکھنا عبادت، اور تیسرا چہرہ علی ابن ابی طالب کو دیکھنا عبادت۔ اور پوچھنے والے نے کیا خوبصورت سوال کیا کہ یا رسول اللہ، ہم تو وہ خوش نصیب ہیں کہ جن کے سامنے مولا کائنات موجود ہیں اور ہم علی کے چہرے کو دیکھ لیتے ہیں اور دیکھ کر عبادت کا شرف حاصل کر لیتے ہیں، اس زمانے کے لوگوں کے لیے کیسے یہ عبادت حاصل کر پائیں گے، یہ عبادت انجام دے پائیں گے کہ جن کے زمانے میں علی حیات نہ ہوں گے؟ تو ایک مرتبہ رسول خدا ارشاد فرماتے ہیں کہ جس طرح علی کے چہرے کو دیکھنا عبادت ہے، اس طرح علی کا ذکر سننا اور ذکر کرنا بھی عبادت ہے۔ تو یقیناً ہم نے اور آپ نے اس وقت اپنے کانوں سے ذکر علی ابن ابی طالب سنا، اپنی زبان سے حیدر حیدر کیا، اپنی زبان سے علی علی کیا، تو ہمیں پروردگار عالم اس عبادت کا اجر ضرور ضرور عطا کرے گا۔ اور اسی لیے کہتے ہیں کہ نہ بھول کر بھی کبھی تم کسی کی بات کرو، نہ بھول کر بھی کبھی تم کسی کی بات کرو، علی کا ذکر کرو، بس علی کی بات کرو۔ اور اگر آپ ایسا کریں گے تو یقین جانے کیا ہوگا آخرت میں کہ نہ بھول کر بھی کبھی تم کسی کی بات کرو، علی کا ذکر کرو، بس علی کی بات کرو، اور فرشتوں کیسا حساب و کتاب تربت میں، اب آ گئے ہو تو بیٹھو علی کی بات کرو، اب آ گئے ہو تو بیٹھو علی کی بات کرو۔ اس کے ساتھ ہی پروگرام کے سلسلے کو آگے لے کے چلتے ہیں۔ ہمارے ساتھ ہمارے بہت ہی معتبر معزز گیسٹ موجود ہیں جو ہمیں اپنے علم سے ہمارے علم میں اضافہ فرمائیں گے، لیکن اس سے پہلے میں چاہوں گی کہ ہماری گیسٹ ہاشم سسٹرز، کیونکہ اپنی مصروفیت کی وجہ سے انہیں کچھ جلدی ہمارا ساتھ چھوڑنا ہوگا، تو وہ ہم سے اپنا ایوارڈ ریسیو کر لیں، اور اس کے بعد انشاءاللہ ہم اسپیچ کی جانب آگے بڑھیں گے۔ پروردگار عالم ہاشم سسٹرز کی ان عبادت کو، اس ذکر کو اپنی بارگاہ میں قبول و مقبول فرمائے، انہیں دنیا اور آخرت میں اس کا بہترین اجر عطا فرمائے، اور اس ذکر کے صدقے سے شہزادی جناب زینب کی تمام مشکلات کے صدقے سے ان کی مشکلات کو آسان کرے اور ان کو آخرت میں بہترین اجر عطا فرمائے۔ ہاشم سسٹر سے گزارش ہے کہ وہ اسٹیج پہ تشریف لائیں اور اپنا ایوارڈ سرٹیفکیٹ حاصل کر دیں۔ بر محمد والے محمد صلوات۔ اور اب میں دعوت دینا چاہوں گی ہمارے گیسٹ سید محمد نقوی صاحب کو کہ وہ تشریف لائیں، اور آج کا ان کا موضوع ہوگا ہاؤ ٹو برج دا جنریشن گیپ، اور وہ آ کر ہمارے ساتھ کچھ گفتگو فرمائیں۔ بر محمد والے محمد صلوات۔
اعوذ باللہ من الشیطان اللعین الرجیم، بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم، الحمد للہ والصلاة والسلام على اشرف الانبیاء والمرسلین، حبیب قلوبنا وطبیب نفوسنا وشفیع ذنوبنا ابو القاسم محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. أما بعد، السلام عليكم جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. The subject given to me for this wonderful occasion today was how to bridge the gap between 2 different generations that live at the same time. I have tried to put something together to understand what best we can do to bridge this huge gap that exists within the people who have come from different cultures, different backgrounds, different understanding different philosophies, different ideologies, and the new generation that has seen this culture in a different way altogether. It is here that we need to understand what has happened, what can happen, and what solutions can be offered for us to be able to bridge this huge gap that exists today. If you notice that the parents don't agree with anything their children do, the hairstyle that used to exist 50 years ago is not the same hairstyle that exists today. The way we dress is not the same as how we used to dress back then. The way we present ourselves is not the same as we used to present ourselves before. So there is a conflict when a parent tells the child that I disagree with how you dress. There is a conflict when the child says, but I disagree with what you think. There is a conflict when two of the people living within the same house are in total state of disagreement, and they both don't realize that what is separating them is this generation gap, which both don't understand. The English language that we learned in school is not the same as the slang English language that is used by the youth today. For example, sick, as taught to me, was something which is illness. I feel sick. But sick today has a different meaning altogether when it is spoken by the youth. When the youth sees you and you look good, they will say you look sick. When you look at yourself, I have brushed my teeth, I look perfectly well, I feel wonderful within me, yet my child thinks I look sick. What the child means is something else, what I understand is something else, due to this huge generation gap. Evolution has played its role throughout our lives, and it will continue to play its role throughout our lives. We have evolved from Adam alayhi salatu wasalam to Khatam, and from Khatam until now, we are in the state of continuous evolution in every aspect of our existence. We are continuously evolving. What used to be something else yesterday has lost its meaning today. What exists today was never understood by the people before. Let me give you an example. Imam Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam mentions, and during his time, you will appreciate this particular hadith that he mentioned. He talks about the coming of the 12th Imam alayhi salam. And I'm paraphrasing what Imam alayhi salam says. He says, there shall come a time when the Imam will make his reappearance, when man will be able to see the Imam in the palm of his hand. The people then did not understand the way Imam mentioned it, and therefore they concluded that this is going to be a miracle that is going to take place when Imam alayhi salam comes. But that was not what Imam probably meant. With the new technologies that are before us, where I can FaceTime you and Skype you and conference you and see you in one instant, you begin to realize that that was not a miracle that Imam was talking about. What Imam was talking about was the development of this human mind and human intellect that is going to bring about this. So in the process of evolution, what was the statement of the Imam then will make sense in today's context in totally different understanding than how it used to be during the time of Imam alayhi salatu wasalam. So what we need to do, there is huge amount of conflict a parent thinks that the value that was given to me as a child is the same value that I must give to my child. And therefore the parents, probably it's a mistake, but I will leave it to your own interpretation, and I have mentioned to you what I think. The parent might say, that's not how we used to do things before. But that may not make sense to the child whatsoever. Absolutely not. You know, I remember, I don't know, I come from Africa myself. Although my background is from Lucknow, my father was in Lucknow, he migrated into Africa 55 years ago. We were all born in Africa, I grew up in Africa, I saw Africa. And therefore, in the community in which I lived, there was a system of marriage, for example. How did the marriage used to take place before? The father used to come home and inform the daughter that I have selected a husband for you. And the son used to be told by the father, I have selected a husband and a spouse for you. And inshallah ta'ala on 13th of Rajab, we shall have your nikah done. It was perfectly fine. It was perfect, okay. The man had never seen the woman had never seen the man. 13th of Rajab was the first time they saw each other. It may have worked wonderfully then, I don't know. But it seemed to have worked then. This is how they used to get married at that particular time. Try that today. Make an attempt and try this today and see what happens. If it will work in one house, it will not work in 99 houses. Then time moved on as evolution went by. Things changed, understanding changed. The culture in which we lived changed. The traditions that we followed were interpreted in different manner. Then the father realized that, maybe the first time to meet on the 13th of Rajab or 17th of Rabiul Awwal was not correct. And therefore they started bringing photos, sometimes passport size photographs. This is the guy I have chosen for you, and this is the lady I have chosen for you. And come the wiladat of a particular imam, inshallah ta'ala, your nikah will take place and you shall meet your man or your woman. Many marriages like this may have taken place here. If for the first time the lady saw her husband, and the husband saw his wife in that particular environment for the first time, it may have worked then. Evolution demanded more. We moved on. Culture changed. There came a time when photos were not sufficient and enough anymore. Now there was a need for something more. I need to understand more. So there is a culture that we followed, and there is a religious guidance that we have. When we look at culture and ignore the religious guidance, we begin to have conflict within ourselves. So the values we hold, this is the value, this is how I have been brought up, this is how I want you to be brought up. You lived 50 years ago. I live today. I don't understand what you are saying. You don't understand what I am saying. Time moved on. It was now not photographs anymore. The boy was invited home. The girl was told to bring gulab jamun or a juice or something in front of the boy. It is the first time that the boy saw the girl saw the boy. And then they decided within those few seconds that this is the person they want to get married to for the rest of their lives. Time moved on. It was no more invitations at home. You probably know better what is happening today, because I also am a victim of generation with my white beard. So I don't know what is happening today. There is Facebook. There is, Allah knows, so many Instagrams and this social media that is out there. Huge. There is so much happening that we don't know. We may disagree with many things that our youth do, but we have guidance from Quran. We have guidance from the ahadith. We have guidance from the Holy Prophet of Islam. We have guidance from the A'imma alayhimus salatu wassalam with regard to how we should live with our parents. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about the respect to parents, He immediately at the same time gives a balance and an equilibrium to say that you must obey your parents under all circumstances. وَقَضَى رَبُّكَ أَلَّا تَعْبُدُوا إِلَّا إِيَّاهُ وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. Right? That's one verse. But on the other verse, on the opposite side of the verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَإِن جَاهَدَاكَ عَلَىٰ أَن تُشْرِكَ مَا لَيْسَ لَكَ بِهِ عِلْمٍ فَلَا تُطِعْهُمَا. Both are verses of Quran in different contexts altogether. In the first context, you and I are being told to obey our parents under all circumstances, except in which they bring you to an area where your obedience is in contradiction to the obedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. فَلَا تُطِعْهُمَا. But then Allah continues by saying, but you still need to be kind to them. Imam Zainul Abidin, in one of his wonderful works known as Risalatul Huquq, talks about the responsibilities and the rights of a child, talks about the responsibilities and the rights of the parents, talks about the responsibilities of this communication between these two generations, how to communicate with them, how to talk about a parent, for example, what is the right of a parent in Risalatul Huquq, in the Charter of Rights. You will realize that these guidance are there. So what needs to happen, and I don't want to take much of your time, what needs to happen? There is a conflict, clear conflict in what is happening. There is a huge generation gap. We are unable to understand even the English language that is spoken by our children. We are unable to understand what they want when it comes to culture versus religion. My culture, I want to hold on to my culture, even if it means I will lose my child. We have a problem in that area. We need to see the religious guidance. So there is a cultural affiliation that we have. There is a cultural loyalty that we have. But then if it contradicts with what the Sharia says, we need to be extremely careful on how we can take on from there. One of the things that is missing in the busy time in which we live is communication. We hardly communicate. We struggle to find time to eat food and dinner in the same table with our children. They are in the university. They come back late. We are hungry, some of us diabetic. We need to eat food at a particular time. And therefore we need to eat our food. We sit on the table. The old man and the woman are eating. The children are in the university. When they come back from the university, we are tired. We want to retire. Early in the morning, they have left. There is no time and room for communication. Even the basic eating together on the table is gone. That has increased the generation gap. The child has been told to respect the parent, and he must. This is given to us by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The child has been told to respect the parent. The parent has been told to look after the rights of the child. It must be respected. However, the culture sometimes does not allow the child to even consult the parent, because he is scared this may be a subject that my father may not like, or my mother may not discuss with me. Sometimes communication is of utmost importance. When you communicate with your child, they are able to tell you what they agree with, or at least make you understand their view of what their worldview is, how they see their worldview. And you are able to then express to them your worldview. There is no doubt that there is a horizon where your worldview will meet the worldview of your child through this process of communication. We need to communicate with our children. We need to talk with them. We need to see their problems and empathize and understand. And they need to see our point of view. They need to see where we come from. They need to see what cultures we have come from. And if we are to change our minds and they are to change theirs, there has to be a horizon somewhere in the middle where I'm able to understand their viewpoint and they are able to understand my viewpoint. Communication is of utmost importance in bridging the gap. Culture versus religion is another area that needs to be studied by the parents as well as the children. Some of us are very loyal to our culture, extremely loyal, and there is no harm in being loyal. However, if this culture of ours is being the main reason that is creating this gap between myself and the younger generation, then I must revisit the loyalty of my culture. If it is not violating the ethical framework of Sharia, I must compromise my culture and look at what Sharia is saying, to be able to accommodate that which my child wants and for my child to accommodate that which I want. If I hold on to culture and say this is how it is, it's either my way or highway, then it will be a highway for me. It will not be a my way for me. It will be a highway for me. Those days when the parents used to say it's either my way or highway, they used to get away with it because the children were sam'an wa ta'a. They heard and they were quiet and they followed. Now it is not the case. The culture in which we live has taught them more, has taught them different issues, has given them a perspective of life that you and I have not had. We were born in certain area, certain time, certain culture. They are born in certain area, certain time, certain culture. They see things totally differently from how we see it. So the only way, one of the only ways that we can use to build the bridge between the generation is, or this generation gap is for us to be able to communicate with each other, and communication will assist us in doing so. There is a hadith of Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib salawatullahi wa salamu alayh. This is a hadith that according to some scholars may not be a hadith from Imam Ali alayhi salam. However, this is attributed to Imam Ali alayhi salam in some books, in which Imam Ali alayhi salam says, do not force your children in having the same characteristics as you do. Now, whether this is Imam Ali's or not needs to be verified, but I have taken it from a book that attributes it to Imam Ali alayhi salatu wasalam. And it says, do not teach them or do not force them to have the same characteristics as you do. فَإِنَّهُمْ خُلِقُوا لِزَمَانِ غَيْرِ زَمَانِكُمْ, because they have been created for a time other than your time. Their lives are different, their understanding of life is different. So to be able to bridge this gap, we need to be able to understand their worldview as much as they need to understand our view. And it is here that Imam Zainab al-Abidin, for example, says in Risalatul Huquq, he says to us that your father's right is, know that your father has a right over you. Know that your father has a right over you, and his right is أن تعلم أنك فرعه وإنه أصلك. That you know that you are part of him and he is your origin. One beautiful thing Imam says, وَمَهْمَا تَرَى فِي نَفْسِكَ شَيْئًا يُعْجِبُكَ. And if you see something within you that pleases you, that makes you feel something, that gives you some sort of a pleasure, فَاعْلَمْ إِنَّ أَبَاكَ أَصْلُكَ. Know that your father is your origin. لَوْلَاهُ لَمْ تَكُنْ. Had it not been for him, you would not have existed. Why is Imam saying this? Imam wants you and I to realize that the Father of ours is our identity, number one. Number two, that all that He has done throughout His life is to make sure that He has given us the best that He could. And that if He understood what is best for you, in your opinion, He would have provided it for you. But because He is unable to understand it, you must listen to your Father and extremely politely express your point of view to Him by telling Him, Dad, I don't understand this. Can you explain this to me better? Or, Dad, may I please explain to you what I understand? This communication between a parent will allow individuals to flourish. Is it not the case when Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam takes his son Ismail, after he sees the dream, see how he talks to him. إِنِّي أَرَى فِي الْمَنَامِ أَنِّي أَذْبَحُكَ, I see in my dream that I am slaughtering you. فَانْظُرْ مَاذَا تَرَى. He's a prophet. He has an instruction. He has seen a dream. He's talking to another prophet. What does he say to him? This is what I have seen. This is what I'm supposed to do. But see what you think about it. Talking to him. Although he knew the response, Ibrahim, I have no doubt about it, that Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam knew the response that his son was going to tell him, If'al ma tu'mar, do what you are told, you will find me from amongst those who are patient. But yet Ibrahim says to his son, he consults him and he says to him, Fandur madha tara, see what you see. This is a communication between a father and a child. So in this communication between these two individuals, you find that there is an area when two people will speak, there is an area where the horizon will meet. When I will be able to see your world and you will be able to see my world, and we will be able to find a place where we can both grow from and develop from. Mother and child, exactly the same thing. So there are so many things with regard to bridging generation gaps that we can discuss. Respecting each other is of utmost importance in this. Seeing each other's viewpoint is of utmost importance in this. If we do not do this, my fellow brothers and sisters, this gap will widen enough and we will keep on moving further and further apart. There may be a time when I will have unnecessarily distanced my child away from me, or my child will have unnecessarily distanced himself or herself away from me just because I am unable to see their point of view, they are unable to see my point of view. No, that cannot be the case. Whether it is in the event of Karbala, you will see Imam Hussein alayhi salatu wasalam also discussing, talking to those youths of Karbala in a very different language. And you will find on many occasions Imam alayhi salam is being told, for example, Qasim, the son of Imam al-Hasan alayhi salatu wasalam, is being asked, how will you see death? And his response is a very wise response. A response that he responds to his uncle in a very beautiful manner. What I am concentrating here on is not what they spoke about, is the fact that Imam Hussein actually asks him a question. And he actually responds by another question. There is this state of communication between them. And it is that which allows, it's not only us who are suffering from generation gap, by the way. Even the past have suffered from generation gaps. The only difference probably in the past was we lived in the same culture and the same society, and therefore it was of a different nature. Now it is a different culture, a culture that is a mix of so many things. We have an Iraqi who brings his own Iraqi culture. We have an Iranian who brings their own Iranian culture. We have a Pakistani who brings his own Pakistani culture. We have Indians who bring their own Indian culture. We have Bangladeshis, they have their own different culture. We have Chinese, Indonesians, we have Malaysians. We have all these people who have brought their cultures here. But when they arrived here, it was no more a Chinese culture alone. It was a Chinese culture mixed with another. It was a Malaysian mixed with another. It was a Pakistani mixed with Yemeni. This was the culture, and we probably who grew up in those parts of the world don't understand this culture. So when my child grows up, he has grown up in a culture. I never gave him time because I was too busy. He grew up without me. I could not eat the same meal because I was busy in making sure that I was able to feed my children. By the time I needed to see that I can speak to them, they were talking a different language than I was speaking. When I tried to reason with them, I failed to reason with them. It was because I did not understand what was happening. So building of the gap for generation gap, I think one of the necessary things that every parent and child must do is find time to communicate, discuss, whether it is cultural issues, whether it is issues in school, university, college, marriage, whether it is issues with regard to anything. Let the child never ever feel that he can or she cannot talk to you about any subject whatsoever. What we have as parents is experience. What the child has is a worldview. When these both come together, there will be nothing but wisdom, except that space needs to be created for us all so that we are able to talk about it. Inshallah ta'ala. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He gives us the tawfiq for us to be able to bridge. This is only one aspect of bridging the generation gap. There are many other aspects from different areas to discuss. Inshallah ta'ala, we shall talk about it some other time. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
बहुत शुक्रिया मौलाना साहब। परवरदिगार आलम तमाम उलमाए दीन को सलामत रखे, सेहत और तंदुरुस्ती अता करे और वो इसी तरह से हमें अपने इल्म से मुस्तफ़ीद करते रहें। इसके बाद हम आप लोगों को भी ये मौका देंगे कि आप अगर कुछ सवालात करना चाहें मौलाना साहब से तो आप कर सकते हैं, लेकिन क्वेश्चन आंसर के सेशन से पहले हम चाहेंगे कि हम अवार्ड सेरेमनी की तरफ आगे बढ़ें। और इस वक्त हमारे पास दो हमारे गेस्ट मौजूद हैं कि यकीनन बहुत ज़रूरी है कि क्योंकि हमारी कम्युनिटी इतनी मुख्तसर सी है और इस कम्युनिटी में जो कोई भी अगर किसी भी, चाहे वो तालीम का मैदान हो, चाहे वो स्पोर्ट्स का मैदान हो, चाहे वो कोई भी पॉलिटिक्स का मैदान हो, जहाँ पर भी हमारे लोग, हमारी खुसूसी तौर पे ख़वातीन आगे बढ़ें, हमारा और तमाम लोगों का ये फ़र्ज़ बनता है कि हम उनको ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा अप्रिशिएट करें, ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा उनकी हौसला अफजाई करें ताकि वो इसी तरह से तरक्की हासिल करती रहें। और इसके साथ ही परवरदिगार आलम से दुआ है कि परवरदिगार बाब मदीनतुल इल्म हज़रत अली इब्न अबी तालिब के सदक़े से हमारे बच्चों की और तमाम ख़वातीन की और ख़ुसूसी तौर पे जो जद्दोजहद कर रही हैं, जो अपने घर को संभालने के साथ साथ बाहर भी, हर तालीम के मैदान में भी, स्पोर्ट्स के मैदान में भी, पॉलिटिक्स के मैदान में भी, हर एक जगह पर तरक्की करने की कोशिश कर रही हैं। परवरदिगार आलम उनके हर एक काम को उनके लिए आसान बनाए, उनकी तौफीक़ात में इजाफा फरमाए, उनको दीन, दुनिया, आखिरत की कामयाबी हासिल कराए। सबसे पहले मैं अवार्ड देना चाहूँगी ज़ारा आलिजा को। और ज़ारा आलिजा लेबर काउंसलर होने के साथ साथ चेयर हाइडवे यूथ प्रोजेक्ट भी हैं, लेक्चरार इन एजुकेशन हैं और इसके साथ ही रिसर्च प्रोजेक्ट्स के अंदर भी दिलचस्पी रखती हैं। बर मोहम्मद वाले मोहम्मद सलावत।
Assalamu alaikum. This certificate and this award actually should go to all of the women in this room, because everybody that's sitting here, I know so many of you, so accomplished, so inspiring. The issues that you face within your homes, and this, as you were saying just now, not only working but also supporting your families, and that actually is something to be looked at too. The reason that I went into politics was because I don't like being depressed and feeling frustrated because of injustice. It's something that happens all the time. 1 in 4 women around the world is subjected to a form of abuse. Abuse is highly prevalent in our society, and it crosses gender, race, ethnicity, religion, class. Within this room, we have individuals who either have been touched by it or are experiencing it. And our responsibility as individuals and as part of our society, because when we talk about community, and we had some excellent speeches earlier on, there is no such thing as a community. A community is a pluralistic thing. A community is a community of communities. And we heard about the diversity from people who have come here from Iraq to Pakistan. In fact, even within the people who have come here from Iraq, there's diversity. So our responsibility is to support each other as one community in Britain as we do, and to ensure that we work to eradicate injustice, and we look within our own homes to see whether or not there's somebody that's doing something a little bit too much, and there's a lack of balance in that home, or if you've heard about somebody, or if you've seen somebody that's touched by any form of abuse, that you actually step up and you do something about it. Thank you very much.
बहुत शुक्रिया. यकीनन इनकी जैसी तमाम ही ख़वातीन और तमाम ही मर्द और तमाम ही लड़के हमारी कम्युनिटी के जिस तरह से तालीम के मैदान में आगे बढ़ रहे हैं वो हमारे लिए काबिल फ़ख्र हैं. इससे पहले कि मैं आगे का अवार्ड दूँ, छोटी सी बात मेरे जहन में आई और मैंने सोचा क्योंकि मुहिब्बान ज़ैनब का हमेशा से एक मौक़िफ़ रहा है कि वो जितनी भी नौजवान नस्ल है उसको ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा दीन की जानिब खुशामदीद कहे, दीन की जानिब बुलाए, उनको ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा इन्वॉल्व करें. इस तरह की महफ़िलों में बुला के, मजलिसों में बुला के एक छोटा सा पैगाम मैं ये देना चाहूँगी कि जब हम अपने आप को मुंतज़िर इमाम ज़माना अलैहिस्सलाम कह रहे हैं तो हमारे हर एक अमल से नज़र आना चाहिए कि हम उनके इंतज़ार में हैं. इंतज़ार में है तो एक मुंतज़िर को तैयारियां करते हुए नज़र आना चाहिए. और किस तरह से तैयारियां करें कि सिर्फ़ और सिर्फ इबादत करना, सिर्फ़ और सिर्फ नेक अमाल करना नहीं, बल्कि दुनिया और दीन दोनों को बराबर लेकर चलें. एक छोटी सी बात मेरे माँ बाप मुझे बचपन से समझाते थे कि देखो, जब हमारे वक्त के इमाम का ज़हूर होगा, तुम दुनिया की तालीम ये सोच के हासिल करो कि उनको सिर्फ और सिर्फ अपने साथ मजहबी मैदान में आगे लोग नहीं चाहेंगे. हमारे वक्त के इमाम क्योंकि इस ज़माने में ज़हूर करेंगे तो उनको इस ज़माने में भी तालीम याफ्ता लोगों की ज़रूरत होगी. हमारे इमाम का जो लश्कर बनेगा उस लश्कर में उनको डॉक्टर भी चाहिए होगा, इंजीनियर भी चाहिए होगा, उनको हर तरह की टेक्नोलॉजी के लोग चाहिए होंगे. तो हम अपने बच्चों को जहाँ पर हम उनको बताते हैं कि तुम्हें 5 वक्त नमाज पढ़नी है, तुम्हें तालीम हासिल करनी है, आप उनको ये बात भी सिखा सकते हैं कि देखो, अगर तुम आज तालीम के मैदान में आगे बढ़ोगे, तुम डॉक्टर बनोगे, तुम इंजीनियर बनोगे, तुम बिजनेसमैन बनोगे, तुम अच्छा पैसा कमाओगे, तो तुम्हारे पास वो इल्म होगा कि तुम तमीज़ और तहजीब सीख सकोगे कि किस तरह तुम्हें अपनी इबादतें करनी हैं. तुम्हें सलीका आएगा इबादत करने का, तुम्हें सलीका आएगा ज़िंदगी गुजारने का, तुम्हें हराम और हलाल में फ़र्क समझ आएगा. और तुम अगर ये सोच कर अपनी दुनिया की तालीम को हासिल करोगे कि या इमाम ज़माना मैं इसलिए इस मुकाम तक पहुँचना चाहता हूँ ताकि जिस वक्त आपका ज़हूर हो मैं आपके लश्कर में शामिल होकर आपके अंसार की खिदमत कर सकूँ. आप यकीन जानिए कि अगर आप अपनी और अपनी औलाद की नीयतों को इतना पाक रखेंगे तो परवरदिगार उन ज़राए से आपकी मदद फरमाएगा कि जहां आपकी सोच भी नहीं जाती होगी. तो हम दुआ करते हैं कि परवरदिगार इमाम ज़माना अलैहिस्सलाम के ज़हूर में ताजील फरमाए, जल्द अज जल्द हमारे इमाम का ज़हूर हो और हम उनके नासिरान में शामिल होकर उनकी खिदमत कर सकें, अपनी दुनिया और आखिरत को बेहतर बना सकें. और शायर ने क्या खूब कहा कि तमन्ना है मेरे मौला कि ये जल्दी खबर आए, मुबारक इंतज़ारे दीद इमाम मुंतज़िर आए. मुसल्ला मेरे मौला का बिछा हो आबे दरिया पर, मुसल्ला मेरे मौला का बिछा हो आबे दरिया पर, गली में शोर बरपा हो कि शहे बहरो बर आए. और अगर शौक़े ज़ियारत दिल में पैदा हो तो ऐसा हो, अगर शौक़े ज़ियारत दिल में पैदा हो तो ऐसा हो, इधर घर से कदम निकले उधर जलवा नज़र आए, इधर घर से कदम निकले इधर जलवा नज़र आए. और मेरी तो बस तमन्ना है दरे मौला पे मर जाऊं, मेरी तो बस तमन्ना है दरे मौला पे मर जाऊं. हयाते आरज़ी जाए हयाते मोतबर आए, हयाते आरज़ी जाए हयाते मोतबर आए. और मैं मुद्दत से दुआएं कर रही हूँ दीद की खातिर, मैं मुद्दत से दुआएं कर रही हूँ दीद की खातिर. न जाने कब गुनाहगारों की दुआओं में असर आए, न जाने कब गुनाहगारों की दुआओं में असर आए. और इसी के साथ मैं दावत देना चाहूँगी एनी जैदी को कि वो आएँ और आके अपना अवार्ड सर्टिफिकेट हासिल करें. एनी जैदी स्काई स्पोर्ट्स इंस्पिरेशनल वुमेन ऑफ द ईयर हैं माशाल्लाह से, और इसके साथ साथ ये फुटबॉल कोच भी हैं. उसके साथ ये एशियन वुमेन अवार्ड भी 2015 साल के अंदर हासिल कर चुकी हैं और ये की स्पीकर हैं फीफा इंटरनेशनल वुमेन कॉन्फ्रेंस में। पर मोहम्मद वाले मोहम्मद सलावत।
Assalamu alaikum. First of all, I started coaching 10 years ago, but 2 years ago, Maulana Muhammad Naqvi, thank you so much for your dua. I came to you asking your advice about me getting my career into a professional football game, especially coaching men. And with your blessing you gave me, everything, mashallah, has been granted. I won the Sky Sports Award, I won Asian Woman Award, I went to FIFA. I've got people calling me up and down the country doing inspirational talks, and without your dua, nothing would have been done. So thank you, Maulana, for your duas. Second of all, I'd like to thank my mum and my auntie, Sabi auntie. It's important that females support female, mum, auntie, community support myself. But my main reason why I'm doing it, I feel like I've got a responsibility to carry on, because it's not for me now, it's for the young generation coming up. And my message is, don't allow any one's barriers become yours, because I'm the first Muslim hijab wearing coach in the men's game at top international level. And if I can do this, I want my other sister to carry on my legacy. So inshallah, I've got a long way to go, but with Maulana's dua, thank you so much, and inshallah I will pursue my dreams. Thank you.
अब मैं दावत देना चाहूँगी मौलाना अली रज़ा नकवी, मौलाना मोहम्मद नकवी को कि वे स्टेज पे तशरीफ़ लाएं और हमारे सामीन और नाजरीन ने कुछ सवालात हैं जो पूछे हैं तो उनका जवाब दें और हमारे इल्म में इजाफ़ा फरमाएं। बर मोहम्मद वाले मोहम्मद सलावत।
It's not for the bride and the groom. You can sit. Sit.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان. أعوذ بالله. It's not working. One, two. One, two. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين. أما بعد، سلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Alhamdulillah, I'm delighted to be here amongst all the Muhibban Zainab, as this program is called. And all of us have a very common love towards the Ahlul Bayt and towards the holy personalities like Bibi Zainab and the others. Thank you very much for giving us the opportunity of answering any questions that we all may have. But as a researcher, you all will agree with me that no answer is the right answer, because every answer will have another answer, another question. Before we proceed, I would like to call upon Maulana Sahab, who is a Sheikh, respectful Maulana who is here. I think it will be better if you join us here and we can all work as a team and as a group. Please, if you don't mind, Maulana Sahab. Are you sure? Thank you so much. Thank you. So the first question. So there is this one question here which says, people from third world countries to get status and nationality make stories before the Home Office. Is that right according to Islam? So, I mean, my view would be a very common sense view, which would be the, I don't think it would be right Islamically or otherwise. Because the thing is that you are obtaining something by false information and pretense, and it is not morally right and it is not ethically right. So naturally it will not be religiously right as well. So that is what I would say. Anything to add here? People who make stories to have nationalities of the country, is that okay Islamically?
Shall I answer my own question? My question, I will read this out loudly and then inshallah I will respond to it. Is it not permissible to marry of one's choice as long as the future wife or husband follow Ahlul Bayt alayhim salatu wassalam? In Islam, there is no concept of forced marriage. There has never been one. Culturally, there may be reasons for which the elders had probably introduced this, but in Islam, there is no such concept of forced marriages. That is why you will see that the scholar or the wakil or the representative of the bride needs to seek verification and approval from her whether she is happily agreeing to marry someone that has been chosen for her. If she refuses or shows any hesitation, the wakil, according to Shia school of thought and Islam, the wakil is not authorized to recite that nikah. So if the young man or a young lady is a follower of the Ahlul Bayt, is a wonderful person, is a nice person, and is of the choice of that individual, then surely Islam does not refuse. However, if there is any other reservations that the parents may have, it is a different reservation. But in terms of Islam, Islam does not subscribe to forced marriages.
The third question I have here is, how can a husband split his time fairly between his family and his wife? Now, of course, this is a very big question. And I would also add to say that how can an individual really split his time fairly between his own family members? So it is not only husbands, it is also wives, it is also children, it is also daughters, it is also sons that really need to sit down and reflect on their own lives. Because in this life of fast moving that we have, we find that we are busy being busy. And that is one thing that we need to sit down and reflect on. Because end of the day, your loved ones will never be with you for life or for the rest of your lives. They will go away one day. So it is very important that one realizes that we need to spend our time with our families equally. Now there are many strategies that one can have, a husband or a wife can have, in order to spend more time with each other, or even the children to spend more time with each other. I mean, I hear people saying that we go to holidays once a year whereby all of us as a family get together, and that's only 2 weeks. So there's 14 days in 365 days. Really, that is a very sorry state if family members only meet for 2 weeks in a whole year. And there is need, I mean, Islamically as well as humanly, there is need to sit and reflect and on setting the priorities straight so that we can spend time with our families, because we don't know what we have tomorrow, and we cannot even know what we will have if we lose our families. Thank you. This is one.
I will read out the question. The previous generation had different roles in terms of men being breadwinners and women staying at home. Nowadays, women work as well as often need help around the house as a result. But our elders tend to have the same expectation from their children, especially daughters, daughter-in-law. What should we do? Again, as far as sharing of the responsibility in the household is concerned, It is something that is recommended by the Holy Prophet of Islam. It is something that Amirul Mu'mineen is seen doing at home. It is something that is of utmost importance in the growth of two individuals in a happy and harmonious marriage. It is the idea that certain responsibilities at home of assisting, for example, the wife or the husband is only exclusive to the husband or the wife is a notion that probably shouldn't exist in any happy matrimony. There is no such expectation from the... If we start to live a Sharia wife and a Sharia husband, it will become impossible to live like a Sharia wife and a Sharia husband. Imagine I present a scenario before you. The husband says, you are not allowed to step outside your house without my permission. The wife says, I am not going to cook for you or iron for you. I am not going to do none of these things for you. Imagine living 1 week like this at home. It is impossible to live that way. You will need to share responsibilities. You will need to make sure Amirul Mu'mineen is seen assisting Hazrat Zahra alayhi salatu wasalam in so many areas. There is no such expectation that it is only the responsibility of the woman, for example, to do this or to do that. In fact, she can even demand for feeding her own child from her husband, as we see. So, yes, culturally there may be hundreds of things that are introduced that we see, but in terms of sharing responsibilities at home between a husband and a wife, there is no problem whatsoever, and in fact it should be such a case to bring a good family life at home.
I have one question here. Salam, it says, what advice would you give to those parents who have a difference in opinion regarding any aspect of the child's upbringing? Who do you listen to and how do you reach the middle ground? So I'm not sure about this question. There are two tiers in this question. One is that parents have a difference of opinion as to, I want to raise my child this way. So the mother says this and the father says, well, no, I want to raise my child this way. So it is this one. And the other is, well, who does the child listen to? Should he or she listen to the mother or the father? I would maybe say something different here, and I would say that in order for us or me to fulfill the demands of my children, I think I need to look at their needs more than how I want to raise my kids. Because I will have my own opinion, my wife will have her own opinion, I will bring in Sharia, she will bring in culture, and if I am educated, I will bring in education and she will bring in rituals. So all of these things have to be kept aside and bring the need of the child really. What does the child want? How is he or she viewing the religion? How is she or he viewing the rituals, the cultures that we have? And how do we reach a common ground and sit and say, well, it is all about you and not only about us? Of course, Islam has given a responsibility of raising children up, but that is to an extent, to a limit. Because once a child gets their own independent thinking, there is no way that you and I can force them into following or believing in anything. So it is only, I think, in my view, is only better to leave what I want aside and to start thinking on what the child wants instead. And that way, with dialogue, with conversations, we can reach an agreement that I believe would be beneficial for both parents and children as well.
The next question is, we have all heard the hadith from Imam Ali, not to raise your children the way that they were raised, but our parents often do not take this hadith into account. How do we explain this to them? I think my lecture did cover this part of the question. Unless there is a further elaboration required, kindly please do let me know and I will inshallah ta'ala elaborate on this. The next one is, Islam emphasizes obedience of parents as compulsory. However, sometimes our parents are unreasonable and unfair in their expectations or demands. To which degree does the obedience apply? I think I also covered this part briefly in my lecture when I said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does require the children to obey the commands of the parents, except in cases where they are in contradiction to the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in which case the obedience is not obligatory. However, dealing kindly with them still remains obligatory. So they may be unreasonable not probably because they want to be unreasonable probably because they do not understand what you mean or where you are coming from. My suggestion would be that we would probably sit down and communicate with them, discuss issues with them, give them our point of view as young individuals, and say to the parents that this is what we understand, this is what we see, characters, and there needs to be some sort of rational horizon somewhere where both of them can meet. I am sure inshallah ta'ala this will be something that is achievable, provided both the parents as well as the children understand the necessity of doing so. Otherwise they will both lose touch with each other. Where does the obedience of one's parents fit into the husband-wife relationship? Well, some of these problems are very individual to certain families. However, there is a relationship of the husband and wife which must be allowed to flourish, and the relationship between the parents and the child which must also be allowed to flourish. Anything that compromises on these kind of relationships should be eliminated as quickly as possible. The husband and wife should have a space of their own to live and develop. The parents should have a space of their own together with the child to live and develop. One must not bring about, again, many issues which are not necessary in trying to get the children or the couple in the house not to be able to flourish themselves. I think each one of them requires their own spaces, and this relationship, the parents must not be unreasonable, nor should the couple be unreasonable towards this. And that is, I will elaborate on this if further elaboration is required on this. How can a husband split his time fairly between his family and his wife? I think Sayyid Ali has responded to his question. I think we have answered the questions, yeah?
I just want to add one thing for 5 minutes, if you allow me, with your permission, please. Majority of the questions that we have received is to do with family relationships, is to do with parents and children, is to do with wife and husbands. I have a story to tell, because I have just remembered a story which has actually touched my heart so much that it has shaped my thinking as to how do we deal with our families. And I call it the story of drive of life. Actually, it's a drive of life. So there was this young lady, and it's normally, I mean, I do a lot of training here and there, and in one of the training sessions we were talking about experiences of life, where this lady said that there was once when I was a little kid, a child, when my father came home early from work and said to me, let's go and have a drive outside. So she was delighted, and she says, Dad, you're early home, and thank you for coming home early. Yes, I would be delighted to come out with you and go and have a ride. And he said, yeah, we'll go have a ride, we'll eat some ice cream, we'll have some dinner, and we'll come back home by the evening. So she says, fine. So the father said, go and tell your mom as well that she should join us. So the little girl, she said, I went to my mom and I said, Mom, Dad has come home early and he says, let's go for a ride. So the mom said, you know what, I'm a bit busy today. I've got something to do. Why don't you go with your dad? I will stay home, cook food for you. When you come back home, everything will be ready, done for you. So you just go have a good time with your dad. So the girl said, fine. She went back to the dad, and the dad said, okay, if your mom is busy, that's fine. And they left. They went to have this wonderful time together. They went to the, to the countryside. They had a lovely drive. They had ice cream. They had food. And they came back home in the evening. How was the drive? Mom asked. She said, well, it was wonderful. We missed you though. Anyway, night came. The girl says, and she was now a lady when she's narrating this story. She says, night came. We all went to sleep. The next morning, my father never woke up. He died. She says, from that day onwards, I have not seen a smile on the face of my mother, because she lost that opportunity of having fun on the last day of his life. This is an opportunity that when it comes, it knocks on the door. I and you should take it. Sometimes you will see our children coming to us and wanting to speak to us, but because we are busy, we say, you know what, come later. I need to do something now. When you see your wife or your husband or each other wants to say something to someone, we just make a face, oh, I am on a phone call, I am on a laptop, I am doing this work, I am doing that work. My dear brothers and sisters, one needs to think. An opportunity that comes might never come again. And especially when it comes to the family members of ours, because it is a gift given to us by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The relationship between a father and a mother, mother and a daughter, brothers and sisters, it is a gift by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And how ironic that I will speak to my fellow colleagues in a very nice and a kind way, but when it comes to my own family members, I will show them attitude. Why is this? One needs to reflect on this. And I think that is why the ayah of the Holy Quran is so befitting. When the Holy Prophet is teaching you and me, in fact Allah is telling me and you that if you want to thank your Holy Prophet for whatever that message he has brought to this world, love his family. The Holy Prophet himself has said, love my family if you appreciate what I have done for you. So it is a precedence that the Holy Prophet has actually set. And I think and I believe that after Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the Holy Ahlul Bayt, the family comes first, and of course humanity at large. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
I think this is more a comment than a question. I will just read it out. It said, as a parent, when in different controversial issues wants to take help of our spiritual leaders or Maulana, we at that time never received any support in time. I guess in Arabic there is a saying which goes, Fat Mat, that which has passed is dead. Now that we have woken up to this reality, we have scholars of profound knowledge and high caliber across us, around us, everywhere. I think it is never too late to seek guidance, never too late to feel that we have lost everything. I'm sure there is huge amount of possibilities still left, and inshallah ta'ala we do tawakkul on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We take it from here and we pray to the Almighty Lord to make it easy for each and every one of us in making sure that we develop ourselves together, inshallah ta'ala. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Yeah, question.
बहुत शुक्रिया मौलाना साहब। इसके साथ ही हमारा प्रोग्राम अपने अख्ताम की तरफ आया। हम एक बार फिर साफ सबके तहे दिल से मशकूर हैं जिन्होंने अपनी मसरूफ़ ज़िंदगियों में से वक्त निकाला है यहाँ पर आने के लिए, और यकीनन इसकी बेहतरीन जज़ा दुनिया और आखिरत में शहज़ादी जनाब ज़ैनब सलामुल्लाह अलैहा आपको देंगी। मैं अपनी तरफ से भी बहुत तहे दिल से शुक्रगुज़ार हूँ हिदायत टीवी की कि मुझे ये मौका, ये सआदत अता फ़रमाई कि मैंने इस कार्य खैर में, इस इबादत में अपना हिस्सा डाला। और इसके साथ ही मुहिब्बान ज़ैनब की तरफ से हम हिदायत टीवी के बहुत ممنون ہیں, بہت مشکور ہیں کہ انہوں نے یہ سعادت عطا فرمائی کہ محبان زینب اپنے موقف کو دنیا کے سامنے پیش کر پا رہا ہے. پروردگار عالم اس کام میں, اس عبادت میں جتنے بھی لوگ شریک ہیں ان سب کی دنیا کی ہر مشکل کو, آخرت کی ہر مشکل کو, پریشانیوں کو آسان کرے. پروردگار عالم امام زمان علیہ السلام کے ظہور میں تعجیل کرے اور ہمیں ان کے ناصران میں شامل فرمائے. بر محمد و آل محمد صلوات.